Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen Benelli. This is the Reiki Lifestyle Podcast with Robin Benelli, my daughter.
Hello. Glad to be here.
And we are super excited today to have our guest, William Lee Rand. Hi, William.
Hi.
And his beautiful property in Hana, Hawaii. And this is the view out his front door. Well, front door isn't quite accurate.
Front
One
porch.
of the many.
Yeah.
It's stunning land. If you ever get the opportunity to go take a class there with him, you'd be very glad you did. So anyway, all right. Well, let's introduce William. I'll go ahead and read your bio and then we're going to get into it. Today, what we're going to talk about is actually William's story with Reiki and his history from when he started back in the 80s and that inner guidance that he had to follow his inner guidance about Reiki and many of the innovations that have occurred in Reiki and the evolution of Reiki because of him following his guidance and his philosophy with that. So we're going to talk about that all the way through today to we now have online and World Peace, Holy Fire 3, Reiki, Karuna Reiki. So much to talk about. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and read his bio, but I can also just tell you, William is a family friend, my mentor, colleague. I'm a student. We teach together, and Robin and William have known each other since she was you were teenager, I think.
I think maybe I was technically in college, but I was probably close to 20. So
yeah, something like that. So a long time.
Yeah.
So a long time. And so there's a lot on a personal level to share too, just because truly William has such a beautiful heart. And so that's the thing that I would say the most about him. He cares deeply and loves deeply. So anyway, we'll get to the official bio. All right, so William Lee Rand is founder and president of the International Center for Reiki Training, the ICRT, the Center for Reiki Research, the Reiki Membership Association. He's also the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Reiki News magazine. He's authored Reiki, the Healing Touch, the Reiki Touch Kit, Reiki for a New Millennium, the Spirit of Reiki, and well over 100 articles on the history, philosophy, and practice of Reiki. And I would add to that too it's the next line, the research on the history of Reiki and the origin. So he's done extensive research on the origin and nature of Reiki and produced a pioneering work titled An Evidence-Based History of Reiki. Excellent book, by the way, on Reiki.org. So William's the originator of the Usui Tibetan system of Reiki, which he developed in 1989. In 1995, with the help of some of his students, he developed the Karuna Reiki system of healing. In January of 2014, he introduced the Holy Fire system of Reiki, which was upgraded to Holy Fire II, then upgraded to Holy Fire 3. And then I also, let me see if it's down here. I don't think it says it, but in 2020, upgraded with Holy Fire 2, our ability to teach and practice Reiki online. Then World Peace Reiki came in 2022. Yeah, 2022. It's been 2 years ago. Okay, between 1997 and 2004, he placed World Peace grids at the North and South Pole and in Jerusalem. And the system allows students all over the world to join together each month, sending Reiki to the peace grids to promote world peace. Over 428,000 sets of the World Peace Grid cards have been downloaded for the use in this meditation. But also he has the World Peace Crystal Grid on Mount Kurama in Japan, and also the one right behind him. This is in Hana, Hawaii. And there's also one in his Reiki Center in Michigan. So William received Reiki I in 1981, Reiki II in 1982, and became a Reiki Master in 1989. He's received the Reiki Master level of training from 6 Reiki Masters, including 3 from Japan. He also received Reiki I and II training from Bethel Phaigh Sensei, one of Takata Sensei's masters, and from Chiyoko Yamaguchi Sensei, who's a Reiki Master, or Shinpi-den, who took classes directly from Hayashi Sensei. Okay, so William, just a little bit more. Actually, it's perfect because it really ties into, sharing about your history and some of your process as you were going through your history. So William has a strong background in metaphysics and has previously been a professional astrologer, hypnotherapist, past life regression therapist, rebirther, and is also certified in Neuro Linguistic Programming. And William has dedicated his life to Reiki and practiced and taught full-time classes around the world since 1989. He encourages all Reiki practitioners to work together in harmony to bring peace to the earth. You can find William at reiki.org. His Facebook is International Center for Reiki Training, and Instagram is ICRT Official, Robin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also, I do want to mention, William, one more thing, is you can take classes from William in person. This year, he will be in Redondo Beach, California, Seattle area, Washington. He'll be at the Northeast Reiki Retreat at Silver Bay in New York, Glastonbury, England, Omega in New York, Omega Institute in New York, also the Sedona Reiki Retreat in September, and he will also be teaching in person in Taiwan, Korea, and he and I are teaching together in Japan in October, November. So many accomplishments, right? All right. So, William, what we really wanted to talk about today is your personal story and your history with Reiki. Because from our perspective, you and I have talked, and I've shared with you before, that when I originally received Reiki training, it was a very strict style of Reiki. And there were a lot of intuitive things that felt like off to me, but I didn't know what they were. And that's when in 2003, I studied with you, and then you became my teacher and mentor, and we've worked together since. But the main thing that happened for me that I didn't know at that time that I know now was, first of all, the change when you were one of the leaders in the research on the evidence-based history of Reiki. The other leading piece, the other place where, again, this is what I know now that I didn't know then, is your leadership in following your own unique path and how Reiki guides us to that uniquely and individually. So those were the reasons that drew me to your style of Reiki practice, your teachings, and it brought so much freedom. And also, as you and I have talked about this change of the age, where from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, where this is where humanity is heading, is to discover and find our own path and how we get there and our purpose. So how about if we start there with your journey, where you started with Reiki, and then the other piece is how you learned that Reiki that you're born with your own inner path and guidance, and then your prayer. And I'm going to just let you talk because I could keep going. So,
Okay, thanks,
hi.
Colleen. Now, hey, yeah, I'm very happy to be here. And so yeah, I've known Colleen for a while, and also Robin. And yeah, I'm out here on Maui. That's a view from the front porch down below. So anyway, yeah, Reiki is my life purpose. And I didn't know that in the beginning, but it ended up being the case. So very happy about that. Um, so I guess, back in high school, I was going to graduate. I was a senior in high school, and I was going to graduate, and suddenly I realized, whoa, I'm going to be, out there in the world doing things. Well, what's this about? And so I wondered, what do adults do anyway? So I started looking into this, and I came across a book. It was called The Power of Positive Thinking. And in this book, it was explaining that we have a self-image. And if we think negative thoughts about ourselves, then we have a negative self-image. If we think positive thoughts, we have a positive image. And if we ended up somehow with a negative image of ourselves, we can change it by thinking positive thoughts about ourselves. And it talked about positive affirmations. And if you, like you might say to yourself, I am intelligent. I have lots of energy. I am successful. And so you say those things, wholeheartedly believing them at the time you say them, and you go deep in your subconscious and begin to manifest. So,
Okay, so we had to pause for a second to check William's audio. So we're going to go ahead and start back up with William. And William, you were talking about your book that you had about the power of positive thinking.
yeah. And so I, excuse me, I was raised by a father who was very negative and always yelling at us and condemning us and saying we're dumb and stupid and lazy all the time. And I was very sensitive and was deeply affected by that. And when I started using the power of positive thinking and doing positive affirmations for myself, I realized I was just as sensitive to positive affirmations as I had been to negative. And so then my course in life shifted. And prior to that, I was sort of withdrawn and very introverted and didn't hardly say anything. And then after that, I started to come out, and yeah, it was working. So the positive affirmations, and I realized there's a connection there in my mind. Subconscious mind can be affected in a positive way. And so also at that time, I started reading a book about hypnosis, and there was a hypnotherapist in our area, and he had written a book, and I thought, wow. So I went over and saw him, and I learned self-hypnosis and got some therapy from him, and that was very powerful. And so again, it connected with the power of the subconscious mind and how important that is. That our subconscious mind has a tremendous amount of latent potential, and if we can, harness it, then we can actually evolve and develop and go beyond our normal boundaries. So I work with that. Then I also took a class called Concept Therapy, and that was in Canada. But I heard about it and began taking their classes, and they also used hypnosis. So I was right in the ballpark with what they were doing. And so they gave me a lot of ideas that were, added to what I already knew. I also had joined the Rosicrucian Order. The Rosicrucians are an organization that claims to have started in the times of Atlantis. You may have heard of the lost continent of Atlantis. And so they say that they were on Atlantis. And then when Atlantis sunk, they went to Egypt. And then from there, they went to Europe. And then now they're based primarily in the United States, although their work goes out all over the world. And so what they do is they have what are called monographs, these little booklets that they send out. And you're to study one a week. And they're about religion and philosophy and meditation and healing and tapping into the power of your subconscious mind. And so they were very instructive. And the man who wrote them, he had a PhD, but very knowledgeable, especially in metaphysics. And so I learned a tremendous amount by being a Rosicrucian. And then I found out they actually had meetings in downtown Detroit where you could meet people in person. So I went down there and started talking to people, and that was really valuable to, be around other people who had the same sort of philosophy. And so I had those things going for me. And I was reading the monographs from the Rosicrucians and learning to meditate. And also there are some things about healing as well. And then I went to a party. And at the party, there was a young man, my age, of course, and he was raving about Hawaii. And he was just going on and on about Hawaii and how fantastic it is and everything. And just, and the people around him didn't seem to get he's trying to say something. And he was trying to tell us something. So I paid attention. And what happened next is he sold everything he owned. He bought a pickup truck, drove it to California, had it shipped to Hawaii, and no one ever heard from him again. So I thought, I got it. Hawaii is this fantastic place. So now at the same time, though, I had started my own business and I had a motorcycle and I raced motorcycles and I started selling racing parts for motorcycles. And this was way back before the internet. Now, some of you might realize that, there was a time when there was no internet. So this is before the internet. And and they had mail. There was like a mail order business. You could start a mail order business. So I explained how to do that. And so then I was working in a motorcycle shop, and there were booklets on how to speed tune Yamaha motorcycles for racing. And they said in this literature I was reading that if you could write your own little booklet about a topic, that you could sell them, and you could read other books and then put what you read into your own words. So that's what I did. So I wrote these little speed tuning booklets for Yamaha motorcycles, and I sold them for $1 a piece. They cost me 20 cents. I made 80 cents a booklet. And I put a little ad in the back of the motorcycle magazines, and I sold 800 in a short period of time. I thought, wow. So then I realized I have the names and addresses of 800 people that race motorcycles. I could sell them racing parts. So then I wrote all the companies that made racing parts for motorcycles, got their catalog and dealer price sheet so I could order the parts at a discount. And then a friend of mine raced motorcycles professionally. And he also had a printing business in his basement. And he showed me how to put together, an actual catalog. And so I did that. And so I started selling racing parts. I was in my parents' basement. It got bigger. I was able to buy my own house and then quit my other job and just do the racing parts. And that went over really well. And then someone wanted me to sell these special racing pistons, which I began doing. And those sold really, really well. And so the business got better and better and better and better. And in determining what to do and each step that I took with the business, I just gave it my best thinking. And then I thought, well, maybe what I want to do is expand into something else. And I knew someone that knew how to make things. And he had a workshop, and he knew how to do fiberglass work and a machine shop and welding and all that. And I thought maybe we could make sidecars for motorcycles, because at that time there was a gasoline shortage and the price of gasoline was going up. So I thought sidecars might be a good business. So I started working with him, and he wanted to be partners with me. And so I resisted it, but then I gave in. And so he was a partner. And what happened is things went all right at first, but I noticed he was showing me how to do the different operations of the business. And I noticed also that when I learned how to do something, that became my job. And so my job was actually to do marketing and promote it and advertising and all that. But then I slowly started to be able to do each of the jobs in the shop. And I learned a whole lot of things, how to work a lathe and drill press and bandsaw and things like that. And then also how to do fiberglass work and make molds. And actually, I learned that I could make just about anything. If there's a part, I could make a mold from it and make it out of fiberglass. So I learned a lot. And I was making the fiberglass sidecars and so forth. And then what happened is they came to work, Boyd came to work less and less and less. Until finally, I was doing all the work. And I'd get up in the morning and I'd just race around doing every single job. And at first, it looked like I was working. But finally, I realized it wasn't going to work and the business was going to fail. So I just left and I started traveling around the US. And That was a lot of fun. And finally, I went over to Hawaii, and there was a fiberglass shop on the Big Island. I got a job there. And also in Honolulu, there was a fiberglass shop. And I talked to that man, and he said, well, he had a job for me to be foreman of his fiberglass shop, but it would be 4 months before he could hire me. So he said, go around and have fun. So I did that. I traveled all over Hawaii and learned a lot about each of the islands. And then I came back and I ran his fiberglass shop, learned how to make boats and also how to make fiberglass water tanks, and even how to make a 10,000 gallon fiberglass, like huge water tank. And so that was a lot of fun. But my primary interest really was in metaphysical things. And so I had my astrology chart done. And the woman that did it, had a lot of interesting things to tell me about myself and my life and so forth. But she said she was part of another group that I might be interested in, but she didn't actually tell me the name or what kind of group it was. But in between then, I started reading about Wicca, and some of you may know about Wicca. It's actually also called witchcraft. But I read about it, that it was something that was positive, and that Christians put a negative light on the witchcraft when actually you could do very positive things with it. So I had a positive attitude towards it. So she invited me to a meeting of this group of people, and I found out, well, they're into witchcraft. So I thought, okay, I got it. And there was a guy there that knew all about astrology. So I started talking with him, and just by listening to him, I picked up on astrology, and I was actually able to do charts. So I actually didn't take a class. I just asked him lots of questions, and he showed me how about my chart and everything. I was able to start interpreting charts. Eventually, I did take classes. And then I created something called the transograph. Now, in astrology, at your time of birth, there's an actual map of the sky, which is a map of the positions of each of the planets. Now, you might know that you might be like a Cancer or Libra or Scorpio or Pisces or something like that. And that's where your sun is at your time of birth. But there are all the other planets in the solar system, and each one has a different effect on your different parts of your personality. So by doing the whole chart and looking at all the planets, you can get a very holistic view of a person's personality and what's going on with them. And then also, the transits are where the planets are right now. And what they describe is what's actually taking place in your life right now. And they have a book called An Ephemeris that shows where the planets were at in the past and where they'll be in the future. And because of that, you can actually see what happened in the past in a person's life and what's going to happen in the future. So you can foretell the future and also give advice on how to deal with issues or problems that might come up. So I started doing that. And I was really good at astrology, and my business went along really well. And then I made what's called the transograph, because the regular chart, as I was saying, is just a map of your planets at the time of birth. It doesn't include the transits. So I include the transits in this transograph. And I had a big poster-sized one on the wall of my apartment. My roommate was giving a tarot card reading to someone. And as the woman was leaving, she looked at the chart and said, I know someone that would be interested in that chart. So I gave her a copy. She took it with her. A few days later, I'm sitting in the apartment. I feel a pressure on this side of the body, but I'm not really aware of it too much. But then it moves to the front and suddenly I go, wait a minute, something's happening. I better, pay attention here. So I made my mind very still, just observed. I felt the pressure move over here. And I thought that definitely happened, but I don't know what it was. And so a few days later, I get a phone call, and the woman says, I gave this chart to a friend of mine and he wants to meet you. And by the way, he's a kahuna. Now, the kahunas are the Hawaiian shamans, and I had read a little bit about them, so I knew something about them, but he wanted to meet me. So I went over and talked to him, and it was like he already knew everything about me. And so I realized that was his energy. His aura was so strong, it felt like a pressure. And so he was looking at me from one side, the front, the back, and around like that. And he was like looking at my field, and like he already knew everything about me, and he didn't have any questions. But what he wanted to know is if I would be his personal astrologer and do astrology for him. And also he said he had clients and students, and he could set me up to do astrology for them. And of course, I'd been trying to think, how can I expand my practice? And he wanted to know, would I be interested in that? Well, inside I'm going, are you kidding? Of course I want to do that. That's fantastic. It's amazing. Oh man. But I remained very calm. I said, sure, I'd like to give that a try. So, so then I started doing that, and I did his astrology, and I learned a lot about what kahunas do and beyond what most people understand. And they do a lot more, and that was quite interesting. And then I did astrology for his clients as well. But I got to take his classes, and especially working with him, helping him solve problems for himself and for the work that he was doing. And so I got an in-depth perspective of what kahunas do. And also in the coven, I joined the coven, and there was a witch there. She was in charge of the coven, and she was called a hereditary witch. Now, a hereditary witch is a witch that whose parents had been witches and grandparents, and all of her relatives going way back into the past had been witches. So anyway, she had a lot going on, and I got an in-depth understanding of that sort of practice as well. So there are two, what you might call shamanic practices, the kahuna and witchcraft. It's called huna, and huna means secret. And the kahuna is keeper of the secret. And so there are these secret methods they have for healing and meditation, manifesting, and things like that. And so I learned all about that. And then what I did was I made, because I was a hypnotist, a hypnotherapist, I was able to make a little tape that did everything he did. Now, one of the things he said was extremely interesting. He said he could take any negative energy that came toward him, capture it, make it positive, and add it to his supply. I thought, wow, that he just said a couple of things there that I didn't, they're kind of in the back of my mind, but like he's doing that. I go, wow. So I did the same thing with my little cassette tape. I put a protective field of energy around you. I also put a field of energy that took any negative energy that comes toward you, makes it positive, and adds it to your supply. And then it cuts all cords, negative sources of influence, and does things like that. And I began selling my tape. I sold 2,000. And so it was really popular. And so I got lots of letters back from people saying how grateful they were, because a lot of times the problems that we have are not actually coming from ourselves, but they're coming from other people. So other people's negative energies can influence us and have a negative effect on us. And we might work on ourselves, but somehow it never goes away because it's someone else's energy. So I learned all about that and how to work with it. Now, in the practice of Reiki that we studied, and with holy fire, we have a method of dealing with that very effectively. So anyway, I studied with the kahuna, and then also I worked with him for about a year, and then I took a lot of other trainings and classes and learned a lot about the whole field of metaphysics. And when I was on the Big Island, there was a 1-week rebirthing class taught by Leonard Owen. He's the father of rebirthing. Rebirthing has to do with going back to your first breath and redoing it in a very positive atmosphere. And that forms a very solid foundation for your life now. So it's like your breathing starts when you are born and you take your first breath. And whatever you're feeling or thinking forms the foundation of your life. And rebirthing is a way to go back and redo that in a very positive way, because sometimes what's happening at the beginning of a person's life isn't always positive. And so I was in that class learning how to be a rebirther, but then someone stood up and wanted to talk to the group. Her name was Bethel Phaigh, and she was a Reiki Master. And so she started talking about Reiki, and I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. And I wanted to learn more about it. And then the next day she said that there was enough time in the rebirthing class, she could teach a Reiki class right there in the rebirthing class during the free time. And she wanted to know who wanted to take it. I said, oh, yeah, that's me. I want to take it. Because the Rosicrucians, one thing that the Rosicrucians said is learn from experience. And they said metaphysics is more about doing things rather than just knowing things. And so you need to learn how to do these metaphysical things and experience them, and then understand them from your experience. And so this was really good about Reiki, because I was going to get to take the class instead of just knowing about what Reiki is. So took the class and got the attunement. And then the attunement is what actually gives you the ability to do Reiki. And so received that, and I went for a walk by myself, and was walking along through this path through the jungle, and these light beams were coming down, the sun, and the Reiki spoke to me, and it said, "This system of healing can be developed." I go, got it. So because at that time they were saying, no, you can't develop it. When you have level one, everybody has level one. Everybody has the same Reiki and level one, and it's all the same. You can't develop it, but you can go to level two and it does get stronger, but you can't develop level two. And then there's master. But the energy told me it could be developed. So I bypassed that traditional teaching and just accepted it could be developed. And then also when I studied with the kahuna, he had studied with 9 other kahunas. And he said, there's always more to learn. You never get to a place where you know everything. You always can grow and learn more. And so Bethel taught level 1. I got level 1. That was in 1981. And then she came back and she wanted to teach a level 2 class in Honolulu. And level 2 was $500. At that time, $500 was like $3,000 or $4,000 now. And I was living a life where I was just paying my bills and taking care of my rent and things like that. I wasn't trying to do anything. I didn't have hardly any money. And it was $500. And she wanted to know if I knew anybody that could afford the class and that would want to take level 2. And so I said, I think I do. So I started sending people to her. And then one day she called and said, well, William, I'm so grateful for you. So many people have come, and now we're able to have the class because you've helped. And but what I want to do for you is you can have the class free. I go, what? You say free? Because I couldn't afford, I thought, I'm not going to ever have level 2. It's $500 and that's too much money. But she says, you get it free. I go, oh, wow. So then I got level 2, and that was just amazing. And back then, most people had level 1, very few had level 2, because $500 was so much money back then with inflation, just very few had it. But I got level 2. I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And then she said something interesting. She said that when we're born, we come into life with a life purpose. And we know it when we're little babies, but we can't talk and we can't really do too much as babies. And then as we grow up, we become enculturated, become part of the culture. And the values of our culture tend to replace or override the purpose that we had, that we knew about when we were born. And she said, Reiki, though, helps you remember your purpose. So I thought, well, yeah, I've heard of something like that before, too. Yeah, that's great. And so I was very happy about that. I got level 2. And then what I did was I began saying a prayer to make sure that I understand my purpose. My prayer was, guide me and heal me so that I might be of greater service to myself and to others. And I said that prayer intently every day. And then a big change happened. I was fortunate. I found this plantation shack to live in. Now, in Hawaii, sometimes it's hard to find places to live. But they built these plantation shacks for plantation workers that worked on the sugarcane fields, and there wasn't enough people in Hawaii to do the work in the sugarcane fields, so they would bring people in from other countries, and so they had to have places for them to live. So they built what they called a plantation shack, as 2 bedrooms and a living room and a kitchen and bathroom, and there are these nice little places to live. And I was fortunate enough to actually have one that I was living in. I thought, this is fantastic. And this is just the greatest thing. And I thought, I'm just going to stay here the rest of my life. And if I don't do anything more than just be in Hawaii, that's enough to make my life worthwhile. So I don't know if you've ever been to Hawaii. A lot of people don't want to go back. No, I want to stay. So anyway, I got to stay there and I was living there. I thought that was fantastic. And so my plan was, I'll just stay here. And, but then one night, there were actually 3 plantation shacks. We had a mutual washer dryer. So I went out to get my laundry and I'm looking up and the stars are blazing. And sometimes the atmosphere is much clearer than normal. I could look up and see stars and see the ones that are close and further away and much further away. I could look into the depths of the universe and it just expanded my consciousness. And so I went back into the house in this altered state and I'm standing there just contemplating what I was just aware of. And there's a being standing there. And it says, there is a way for you. Now, what had happened was there was a lot of things I could do, and I'd taken all these classes. I didn't know which way to go with my life or what to do. And the being says, there is a way for you, a path. And then when this being says that, I see this path going off into the distance. And it says, at first, this path will be difficult, but I will be here to help you get through the difficulties. And in the end, you will fulfill your life purpose. I'm going, wow. Like that. And but it says, now you can't just be aware of it. You have to accept it. This is a very serious moment, and you have to decide, do you want to accept this path or not? And I already knew what I was going to do. So but I center myself and I go, I accept this path. And so then after that, things changed and I had to move around. It didn't seem stable, and I had to move around and around and around. And I took this workshop in Neuro Linguistic Programming with Tony Robbins. And then I met some people, and what happened was I had to move out of the plantation shack, and then it was hard for me to find places to live, and then I got the like Tony Robbins class, and he did the fire walk and things like that, and Neuro Linguistic Programming. Then I found he was going to have a 2-week training class in Phoenix, Arizona, and I called a friend of mine, and it was a lot of money, like $2,400. I told her about it, and she had made some money as a movie star in Japan. She was Caucasian, but in Japan she was, I guess, unusual, I suppose. And but she was a movie star there and made some money. I told her about it, and she asked me, are you going to take this, training from Tony? And I go, well, it's $2,400. I can't afford that much money. And he says, I'll loan you the money, and I'll give you an extra $500 for expenses. We can go together and take it. I go, wow, fantastic. So anyway, I ended up taking that, and I had a friend that moved to San Francisco. So my plan was, things weren't going well in Hawaii. I was going to go to take Tony Robbins' course and move to San Francisco, which I did. And then things went well there for a while, but then again, no money. And I called my parents, and my mother said, you can come back home and live with us. And I go, what are you talking about? I moved to get away from you guys. So, I asked them to loan me some money. He said, we can't loan you any money, but you could go back home and live with us. And my mother thought that was the greatest thing she ever thought of in her life. This is a fantastic plan. And I thought it was the worst thing. And so I said a prayer, and I was told, give it a try. I go, what do you mean give it a try? What's that mean? How can't you tell me what's going to happen? Well, what do you mean give it a try? And it says, meditate on that. So I meditate on it, and I realize, oh, there's something there for me. I get it. And I get, okay, there's something there. I'm going to go back there, look around, learn that lesson right away, and go back to Hawaii. So went out to live with my parents, and a lot of things happened there. They wanted me to get like a regular job. Are you crazy? Well, anyway, I got a regular job, and that was actually good, but I didn't keep it. They actually laid me off. They laid off the whole department. And so then I went back into my astrology and past life regression therapy and so forth. My father was very upset, and I had to move out. I moved into a place called the Health Force House. Everybody there was into some type of personal development and personal growth and diet, nutrition, and meditation, and all that stuff. And so I was with them, and at that point then, I developed my ability to be a writer. And I went to the local metaphysical paper, and I said, I've got a lot of different experiences but I don't, how do you write? What do I do? And they said, don't worry about that. None of our writers can write anyway. And what we do is we edit it. What you read is the edited version. You wouldn't believe what people hand in, and they said they fix it and they make it good. So you can, so then they said, the way you talk and stuff, we think you do a good job. So go ahead and write an article. So I did that. They edited it, got in the paper. I thought, wow, I'm a writer. Wow, fantastic. And then I saw the changes they made. And the next time I wrote for the paper, they didn't have to make as many changes. And every time I looked at how they changed it and edited it, and I learned from that and became a better and better writer. And pretty soon they made no changes. And I thought, wow, I'm a writer. This is fantastic. So then I also started some training. So I had taken so many classes. I put all the trainings together into one. I called it my spiritual development training. And it was to help you find your life purpose. And so I did past life regression therapy, guided meditation, Reiki, NLP, a lot of things like that. And people really liked it. And because I was a writer, I put a little ad in the paper. They knew my philosophy because of all the different things I was writing about. So a lot of people signed up. And it came to a point where I had to have 2 classes, one on Thursdays and one on Tuesdays. And the classes were going really well. And so I learned how to be a teacher. I learned how to teach. So I was a writer and a teacher. I go, wow, this is great. Then I heard something about Reiki. Now, when I learned about Reiki back in Hawaii, I was told the master level is $10,000. And I go, what? Did you just say $10,000? And he said, yes, it's $10,000. And the teacher, Bethel, says, and don't try and change it. I'm not going to change the price. It's $10,000. That's the price. That's what you got to pay. And I say, well, I'm not, trying to get you to change the price, but why is it so much money? And she said, well, it's to instill respect, because if we didn't charge a lot of money, people wouldn't respect Reiki. So I thought about that, and I thought, well, I don't do things because of how much I pay for them. I do things because of what they are, what the energy is like, and so forth. And I thought at that point, well, I'll never be a master. I'm never going to get $10,000 together, because back then, $10,000 is more like $40,000 now. So you can imagine if you had to pay $40,000 for Reiki Master, how many would do it? Not too many. So anyway, I just let that go. And but I would ask for guidance. And in fact, I started to realize I'm following my life purpose. Something's happening here, and I'm developing. I'm learning how to write, how to teach. What's next? Well, then I found out someone was teaching the master level of Reiki for $500. And I thought, well, that can't be the real thing. It's supposed to be $10,000. That's supposed to be the fee that you have to pay. And it can't. So, but anyway, eventually I went and talked to the person, Diane McCumber, and she says, oh, no, it is the right thing. It is the actual authentic lineage. And she said, when Mrs. Takata taught Reiki, she taught her cousin, Iris Ishikuro, became a master. And when Takata passed on, Iris taught 2 people for $500. And so she taught her daughter, who never did anything with it, but she taught a man named Arthur Robertson. And Robertson began teaching the Reiki Master class for $500. And that's where Diane learned it. And she said, it is the correct lineage. It is the right energy and everything, but it's $500. So I thought about that. I thought, okay, I think I want to do that. So then I became a Reiki Master. That was March of '89. Then I looked back again. I saw, whoa, what happened here? I was in Hawaii, and I was sort of forced, because I had no money, to come all the way back to Detroit. And then I started to learn things and learn to be a writer and a teacher and everything. And then there's the opportunity to be a Reiki Master for $500. It was like all in step, in sync. So I thought, this is fantastic. So I became a Reiki Master, and then I put my writing ability to work. So I talked to a few people about Reiki, and the one woman said, well, I took the class, but at that time, there was this thing called the oral tradition. So Reiki was said to be an oral tradition, meaning that everything is taught verbally. There's nothing in writing. And that's how I was learning it too. Nothing could be in writing, and you could not take any notes, and you had to remember everything. And she said that's how she learned it, but she couldn't remember how to teach it or how to practice or anything, and so she never used it. So I thought, well, gee whiz, and I thought, do I want my students to be the same way? Because I was starting to do the oral tradition also when I was teaching, and I thought, but what do I want my students to do the same thing? Pay me money, and I'm the big guy, I'm teaching, but my students never use it. And so I get to collect all this money, and then no one ever uses it. And I thought, or I could write a manual. I could break the rule, and I could write a manual and put every single positive idea I have and know about Reiki in it, and just very encouraging for people. Because at that time, there were the Reiki Masters, but they didn't seem to like the idea that other people wanted to be a Reiki Master. And they charged a $10,000 fee. And so I decided I was going to be the opposite. I was going to want people to do as well as they possibly could. And so I wrote this manual with that in mind. I wrote it at a copy shop where they rented time on a Macintosh computer. They showed me how to use the computer and everything. And also there was a print shop. So I wrote the manual and then had it printed. And so I began using it in my classes. And I thought, I thought maybe there's more information about Reiki out there. So I called this bookstore in another town and I said, hey, I'm wondering, do you got any books on Reiki? And he goes, no, there's nothing on Reiki. And I said, well, I have this manual and I'm just wanted to get some reference material for my manual so it'd make it more informative and everything. I thought maybe somebody else had a book, but he says, no, there's nothing. But he said, well, now, did you just say you have a manual? I said, yeah, I got this manual. I use it in my class and stuff. He says, send me some copies. I can sell them. I go, what do you mean? He says, well, there's nothing. People come in here every single day and they're looking for something on Reiki that I have nothing to give to them. I could give them your manual. I go, really? So I sent him 10 copies and he sold them all. I had to get more printed. And now living in Detroit, outside Detroit, there's a place called Ann Arbor, and it's actually a major place for book printers. And so I went over and talked to a manager of one of the book printing companies. And I mentioned about, I have this manual, I Xerox copy, and she explained to me how to put it together for them to print it. So I did that, I had 3,000 copies made. And I was living with a friend of mine and we put them into her storage area in the basement. And then after that, though, I moved out and I started selling the manual. And I wrote the manual in such a way that there was no secrets in it, no symbols, or there was nothing in it that the average person should know. So I made it both as a sales piece for Reiki, an informative book on what Reiki is and how it works, and also a manual to be used in class. So I did that, and lo and behold, it worked really, really well. And I started selling the manuals. I started getting phone calls from people all over the country saying, hey, we read this manual and we're just wondering, would you like to come to our town and teach a Reiki class? We've got about 10 people that want to take it. I go, yeah, sure. So the manual became a sales piece for my Reiki practice. And even I went down to the Caribbean. Even down there, they found out about me. I was teaching the Caribbean right away, and Canada and all over the country. And my practice just got really big. And then I was able to actually buy a house, or I had the money to do it. So and also one of the interesting things the kahuna told me is that it's always good to have a clairvoyant person that's a healer that you work with, because they can reflect back on your energy and they can see more deeply into what's going on with you, and they can give you advice about how to heal, and you're going to heal faster and deeper. So I began doing that, and I had someone like that, and her name was Michelle Griffith, and I was working with her, so that helped me quite a bit, and to heal, in addition to using Reiki, of course. And so also it gave me a lot of guidance, and so I had the money for a down payment for a house, and I wondered, well, should I stay in Detroit, or is there a better place for me to be? And what should I do? And I called her for a session. She said, karmically, it would be better if you bought a house in Detroit. I go, what? And I go, oh, wait a minute. And then as I thought about it, I got it. I go, oh, I surrender. Okay, I got it, surrender. So I got a house in Detroit, which I still have. And once I had that foundation, everything went really, really well. And my whole Reiki practice got bigger and bigger. I had to hire somebody because I was traveling to teach. I hired someone to answer the phone. So they were at my house and they would answer the phone and they would take orders for my manuals and also set up classes. And so then that expanded. I went into 2 bedrooms as office space and the garage. And then I had my manuals printed and I was storing them there. And then it got big enough where I started thinking about an office space. So in 98, in 93, I became a master. In 98, I moved into an office that we still have. And so I was able to have a warehouse there to store the manuals, and everything just got better and better and better. And I continued to say my prayer and continued to get guidance from clairvoyant healers. And I'm working actually with Colleen now. And yeah, so I continued to do it. So I followed what the kahuna had said. always have someone else to look at your aura, because although you might be psychic and intuitive and everything and might do well, you're going to do a lot better with an outside opinion about what's going on with you. So, that was one of the things I did. So what happened is everything got better and better and bigger and bigger. And also, I knew, like the Kahuna had said, these energies can be developed. So because of that, the Reiki teachers said, oh, no, you can't do that. But the Kahuna said they could be developed. So that's what my direction was how can I develop the energies? And working with my clairvoyant people and my own intuition, the energies have gotten stronger and stronger. And when I first started teaching, I learned two different types of Reiki. I learned the Usui method, and I learned something called Raku Ki. And Raku Ki was a Tibetan style of Reiki that Arthur Robertson had developed. And it had something to do with the violet breath and different things like that. So I was teaching them separately, and I thought, well, they're so similar. I wonder, can these be combined together into one class? And so I said a prayer. I could see my guides up there going, let's see. And so, and so then they said, yes, we can do it. We can do it. So then I combined them together and made the Usui Tibetan method of Reiki. And so then I started teaching that. It went over really well. It had both the energies of both worlds, both types of Reiki. And so that was very successful, and it grew and grew and grew. And then sometime, it was in 2014, I was working with, I believe it was Janice Jones as my clairvoyant person. And she was working with a very powerful guide who came in and said that there's a new step for this energy. The guide happened to be Jesus. Now, you might say, Jesus? How come Jesus? He's a Christian. What about that? Well, actually, he said that he was coming to me as a spiritual master, not as a religious figure, and that all the energies and help he would provide for me would be just for spiritual development. I go, whoa. And so then he's giving this idea that he changes how he comes across to people depending upon their orientation. So with Christians, he comes across conforming to the Christian beliefs or whatever. And but for me, since I'm on a spiritual path, he was a spiritual master for me. So it took me a while though to like get used to that idea, because it seemed a little unusual, but I learned from experience that it was working. Now, one of the things I want to mention to you also is that what you need to do is have a way of knowing if a technique or meditation or method that you're using works. And sometimes people use these methods because so-and-so says to do this, and so you follow their directions and guidance and everything. And the thing is, though, you need to look and see, is it working? If it's not working, stop doing it. So if it is working, keep doing it. So, of course, give it a chance to see if it's going to work. But after a while, you say, well, that's not, so I'm going to stop that. So you can use that method with everything in life. So, try things out. If they work, keep doing them. If they don't work, stop doing them. Quite simple. It's very obvious, but a lot of people don't. They're so habituated to this method. They just want to, it's my idea. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. And, but it's not working. Hello. So, you got to, give it up and then try something else. And so in that way, you find ways that really work. And, then you settle in with, a number of ways that are all working, to live your life, and everything goes really well because it's based on experience and results. So, anyway, that's what I do with Reiki and with, what we call the Holy Fire. So, I received the Holy Fire in, it was January 14th, 2014. And we didn't know to call it that at first. And there was a whole different way to do the attunements. And it was all different. And I found out it works. It really works. So then I started to convert over to teaching this new method. And then Jesus came in and said, well, this has a new name. It's called the Holy Fire. So I go, oh, okay. And then he also explained there's a different way to do the attunements. And he said that Normally when you do an attunement, the way we used to, the energy goes through the teacher to the student. And so what happens is then the energy is limited by how much energy the teacher can channel. But I was told there's a different way where the energy goes directly from the source to the student and doesn't go through the teacher first. And that's the way that he said he wanted me to do this. And he explained how to do that with what we now call an ignition, where the teacher talks for a short time and then stops talking, and the energy goes directly to the student. So it's much more powerful. I tried it out, it worked. And my students also, many of whom already had Reiki, were saying, yes, William, this is amazing. It's really fantastic. It works really well. And so we did that. And then also we did something called an experience. An experience is like a guided meditation where the teacher or the person presenting it will talk for a short time, and you have nice music playing in the background, and the person stops talking and the energy goes directly to you. So the energy is not filtered by the teacher or the person doing the experience, and you don't get, it's not limited by the energy of the person doing it. It just bypasses and goes directly to the person. It's called an experience. So anyway, experiences can also be done for anyone. They don't have to have Reiki, and they work. Or you can have Reiki or not, so it works either way. And so we were thinking that we would conduct one of those experiences for you. And let's see if I had anything more to say about, well, then, the energy has continued to develop. And eventually we got to what's called World Peace Reiki. That was very powerful. And it's to bring peace to the world and peace to your world, your individual world, but also to help the whole world become peaceful. And then there were, after that, there were higher and higher levels that came. And what I realized is that, I was getting an upgrade for the Reiki energy at least twice a year. And if I were to give everyone a new name, by now we'd have like 27 different kinds of Reiki. So I decided we're just not going to give it a name. We'll acknowledge that it is getting stronger. And then people will just be guided if they want to review a class or get an upgrade or something like that. So that's how we left it. So that's how it works now. It keeps getting stronger. And sometimes people want to know, well, should I take Holy Fire Reiki? And I don't tell them they should or shouldn't. What I tell them is meditate on it and follow your own guidance. And see, that's like the first step in entering into a higher level spiritual path. Because following your own guidance, that's part of your own development. And so I say, meditate on it. And if you're guided to do it, go ahead. If not, you'll be guided to do something else. So we don't try and tell people what to do. So we just suggest meditate on the holy fire. If you're guided to take it, go ahead and take it. Okay.
Well, William, that was amazing. And there's so many questions and so many different tributaries that I could and want to take, but I know that we do want to go ahead and do an experience. So we'll just have to have you back and explore the tributaries.
Sure, yeah, it'd be fine.
Explore. And also, I just do want to mention too that it is it is the 10-year anniversary for Holy Fire. It just passed, since he said it was January 14th. January 14th?
Yeah, January 14th, 2014.
Yeah.
Now, we just passed last month.
Yeah.
And that was the 10-year anniversary of Holy Fire, which I go, 10 years, really?
Right.
Time goes by so quickly.
That was 2014, 10 years ago.
Yeah. So, it's been 10 years. So,
Well,
and in the mix of that was the very historic change of being able to teach Reiki online too. And that was a significant innovation of yours.
Yeah. Would you want me to say a little bit about that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. So what happened, I was here on Maui and COVID was coming, and it looked like it was getting worse. And I had a class in Redondo Beach and one in Seattle, two classes in both places to teach. And so I took off and I flew back to Redondo Beach. But because of the concern about COVID, we decided we would not touch each other at all. So we did Reiki without touching. And then when I got to Seattle, I canceled the last class and just taught the one because it was getting worse and worse. And then the restrictions were coming in about travel. And so I was able to jump on a plane at the last minute and fly back to Detroit. And then I was talking with Colleen about what to do. And one of the things is that I had taught an upgrade class for people that had Holy Fire II to go to Holy Fire III, and it was online. And to do that, my guides gave me upgrades in my aura so I would be able to teach over the internet. And we found also that there are actually guides for the internet, and that our Reiki guides and the internet guides, had a little conference so that the internet energy could be like a carrier wave for Reiki. And so that's what I was told. And so I was told, yes, we can go ahead and do this and it's going to work, because we had done it just for like a short 4-hour upgrade class. I thought, well, can I teach the whole class online? And, I had a session with Colleen. We were told, yes, you can do it. You're ready now. And they gave us a few more ignitions, I guess, to finish that up. And then I taught the class online. And a lot of the people already had Reiki, and they were just very impressed. They said it was even stronger than what they had experienced before. And so we were very pleased with that we could continue teaching even during the pandemic. And now we're out of that. And so now I'm teaching some classes online and some classes in person.
So good. And thank you for that. And for all the years of you listening to your inner guidance and teaching us, that's so much of the philosophy that you have is helping us to find our way to listen to our own inner guidance.
Yes.
And that's where we need to be now.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's one of the first steps on your spiritual path is to learn to trust in your own guidance. And some people say, well, what if it doesn't work? Well, that's it. You watch if it works. If it's getting good results for you, keep doing it. If not, try something else. Mm-hmm. So, and then you tune in though, until all the things you're doing actually really work, because you're tuned right into your inner guidance.
And the flow. Well, William, as Robin said, there's so many directions we can go, and we do want to make sure we have time for an experience and that you are going to guide us in. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And so let's go ahead. Robin, you said you wanted to pause the recording for a minute.
Yeah, only if William needs to, but otherwise we can.
Yeah, let's do that just to check in. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What we're gonna do is just to the audience is we're gonna pause for a minute. You might want to pause also if you're listening to this, and William's going to guide us in an experience. So like he said, that's going to be like a guided meditation. So you may want to get comfortable. You can be, sitting up comfortably or lying down comfortably. Also, go ahead and pick out some nice meditation music that you like to listen to during this. William, I know you like, there's a particular one that you like.
Yeah, Julie True, Music Eternal by Volume 1. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. So you can go ahead and play that if you'd like to, Julie True music to meditate by.
Well, it's called Healing Presence. That's
Healing Presence
track. Julie True, Healing Presence. Mm-hmm.
We'll put it in the show notes.
We'll put it in the show notes, but you can just search it. So go ahead, and if you're listening, go ahead and pause for a moment, get yourself set up. We're going to take a moment, and then when we restart this, we will go into an experience with William.
Okay, so I'm going to do what I call a holy fire experience. Now, in this experience, what I would like you to do is you could be seated or laying down or even change your position during the experience, and then have some nice music playing in the background. Music I recommend is Julie True, Healing Presence. That's a really great piece of music to listen to for this sort of experience, or something else that doesn't have too many words and just has a beautiful, sort of music for your background. have that playing in the background. And then I'm going to talk for a short time, starting the meditation, and then I'm going to stop talking. And just your music will be playing. And at some point, I'm going to bring people back, and you'll have an opportunity to take some notes about what happened for you. Okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started then. So you can turn your music on and relax. And I'd like you to imagine that it's a very beautiful day, a warm and sunny day. And I'd like you to imagine you're walking through a beautiful forest, and this is a very special forest. It's very safe here, and it's a wonderful forest filled with life. There are beautiful plants and flowers and trees and bushes and grass, and you're barefoot, walking on a path through the forest, feeling very happy and comfortable and safe. And as you're walking along up ahead, you see another path going to the left, and you wonder, well, where does this path go? And just imagine going off to the left. And you notice right away it's going uphill. And so easily now, you just walk uphill, you're very strong, full of vitality, easily you're going up, up, and then you come out to a beautiful meadow, and there's a path going through the meadow. You walk along, and up ahead there's a small hill, and you go up to the top of the hill, and there's some very soft grass there, and it looks like a wonderful place just to relax, and you sit down and then lay down in the grass. The short grass is soft, gentle. And you take another really deep breath and begin gazing overhead. And overhead, you see a very beautiful cloud, a great big white puffy cloud, gentle, calm, peaceful cloud. It feels like it has some sort of special energy. And you begin to gaze up into the cloud, and then the wind sort of swirls in the middle, and it opens up, and a beam of light shines down from the cloud. It shines down all around you. And this is no ordinary light. It's filled with love and peace and happiness and healing. It's filled with the blessings of the holy fire Reiki energy. And it feels like it's passing right through you, so that any additional tension or stress is just kind of melting, flowing away. It's a wonderful feeling of warmth and nurturing and caring and protection. And just imagine looking up into the light now, and the light seems like it's calling you. So imagine now that you rise up into the beam of light, warm and soothing, going up higher, and the light is guiding you now. Allow yourself to be guided by the light. You can continue with your experience as long as you feel guided to do so. And whenever you're ready, take a couple of deep breaths. Bring your awareness to your eyes. And then slowly open your eyes and come back. And then at your own pace, take some time to write down your experiences in your notebooks.
Okay. Well, so thank you so much, William. We're going to just let everybody kind of stay in the space that they're in, but we appreciate you being here and telling your story. And if you want to find William, you can go to reiki.org. And for Colleen and myself, we're at reikilifestyle.com. Of course, we'll put everything in the show notes. All right.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Robin, Colleen.